Now we're going to load the labels on the Bottle-Matic. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove one of the 1-inch collars and the spring. Then we're going to install the label guide, then a core insert with the flange facing the label guide, then the roll of labels, the second core insert inserted into the core, the other label guide, the spring. When you install the spring, you just want to give it a little bit of pressure. You want to smash it about 1/4 of its original diameter. So now we're going to install this on the back of the machine so that the roll unwinds from the bottom of the roll and the label should be facing down. And so we're going to line both of our label guides so that the notches are facing down. We're going to install it on the machine by first aligning the slots in the label guides with the 1/2-inch rod at the bottom. Then we're going to align the notch in the side frame with the roll holder rod, and then the other side as well. So now it's mounted on the machine. Now we're going to feed the labels through. The first thing we want to do is remove the dispensing table. So we're going to rotate the table lock towards the front of the machine, and we're going to slide the dispensing table to the left. Then we're going to lift up on the dispensing table from the right side, and then at the same time sliding it to the right side of the machine and lifting it away. It's that simple to remove. Now we're going to feed the labels through, and as you can see, I've got them a little off center. So I'm going to loosen both thumb screws, and then I can just easily slide this over to where the roll is more in the center. Then I'm going to lock the collar first that doesn't have a spring. Then again, I'm going to collapse that spring down to about 1/4 of its total length. I'm going to pull the labels through the machine, under the feed roller assembly, and under the 1/2-inch rod. Now, once I do this, I'm going to slide the labels over and through the slot in the sensor. The sensing point on the sensor is right here. It's towards the tip, about 1/2 inch from the end of it, and that's where it senses the labels. So if you have round labels, you want to make sure the center of the circle passes underneath this sensor. So the next thing we're going to do is install the dispensing table by, again, bringing it in, lowering the left side first until it goes through the slot in the left side frame. Then we're going to rotate the table lock to give room for the table to pass through. And as we drop the table down on the right side, we're going to push to the left, allowing that table to go through the end of the left side frame here. Once we're level with the bar, we're going to slide the table to the right and go through the right slot and the right side frame. Then the table lock will automatically fall down, locking the table in place. The next thing we're going to do is unlock the feed roller assembly. Run the backing paper between the feed roller and the rubber roller, and then we're going to pull that directly over the top of the roll in the back of the machine. As we pull it forward, we're going to look for the labels to be peeled at the front of the machine. Once that happens, we're going to stop. Holding tension on the backing paper, we're going to lock the feed roller into position. You'll hear it snap into place. Then we're going to pull the backing paper over the spool, removing the spring clip and replacing it, holding the paper in position. Then we're going to tear off the extra backing paper, turn the machine on, make sure it's on one label, and we're going to dispense one label. Be ready to catch it. And the label should stop in this position right here, and now it's ready to go. One thing this machine has is it has the bottle detect option. With the bottle detect, when you set your bottle in, 1/2 second later it will automatically apply a label. Sometimes when you're setting the machine up, you can wave your hand in front of it if it's turned on and it will dispense the label when you're not ready. And some people prefer to use the foot switch. To disconnect the bottle detect, you grasp the wire and pull outward towards you, and you'll see it move about 1/4 inch. That's all it takes to unplug the bottle detect. To plug it back in, shove the wire back in, it'll go back in about between 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch. So that's how you disconnect or disable the bottle detect. Now we're going to adjust the bottle roller on the Bottle-Matic OS. It has an infinite adjustability for the taper of a bottle. So we have wing nuts on each side of the machine. There's 2 wing nuts. So you can just slightly loosen them until they come free, and then you can slide the block forward or backward. But if you have a straight bottle, you really want this to be even on both sides. It doesn't have to be perfect, and you can always adjust it depending on how the label goes on your bottle. Most people don't realize your bottle, a lot of bottles or containers have a slight taper to them, and this allows them to be released from molds and so on. So you may have to adjust for a slight taper, and that's one of the reasons we designed the machine for this, or like this, is because sometimes you do need that real finite adjustment for a slight taper. But it's pretty easy to eyeball. You just want to look straight down in between the rollers, and you want a constant gap. Proper roller spacing isn't that critical. We're going to use a sample bottle we have here. It's a wine bottle. And is what you want is you want the bottle to be stable on the machine. So if it's too close together, the bottle will want to fall off. And so you want to have, for a wine bottle, we're going to give it just a little bit more stability. Again, it's not critical. You just want to try to keep these straight until you put your labels on and decide what taper you may need, if any. So then we're going to tighten those wing nuts, and we're going to put the bottle down. Now we're nice and stable. If you go too far apart, you can cause the labels to skip in front of the bottle because the bottle will sit too low in the machine. So that's really your criteria. If they're too far apart and the label skips in front of the bottle, you need to put them closer together. If you have problems with the bottle not wanting to sit on the rollers, then they're too close together because the bottle isn't stable in the machine. To adjust the bottle guide, you simply, in this case it's a clear bottle, you can move the bottle left to right until you get it centered, or you can look down behind the bottle and kind of see the backing paper to center the labels. Then you slide the guide over to touch the bottle and then tighten the thumb screw on the bottom. Now you should be able to just put the bottle in, press the foot switch, and apply the label. Okay, now we're going to show you how to adjust the pressure arm. The pressure arm pivots on the 3/8 chrome rod, and it pivots around a locking collar. The locking collar has a spring pin in it. The spring pin rests against this shaft. So when we lock this down with the shaft resting on the spring pin and just in position over the bottle or container that you're labeling, if you tighten it down in this position, it allows you to remove your container and place it without manually lifting the pressure arm in the air. So now you can efficiently load and unload your Bottle-Matic. Now we're going to show you how to set up the Bottle-Matic to do a front and back label, or label 1 and label 2. So the machine first will apply label number 1, then it will put in a gap or a space, and then apply label number 2. To determine the gap or space to program into the machine, we use a fairly simple mathematical formula. We measure the circumference of the bottle, which in this case is 250 millimeters. Then we subtract the length of both labels, which we start at the beginning of one set of labels to the beginning of the second set of labels, which is 160 millimeters. We subtract 160 from 250 millimeters, which gives us a total gap of 90 millimeters. That would include the gap on one side of the bottle as well as the gap on the other. So we divide that by 2, and we come with 45 millimeters. We set the display on the machine to 45, so we have 045, and that should put a gap of 45 millimeters between the labels. Put the bottle in. Make sure we're set to 2 labels. Press the foot switch. Now we'll measure the gap. Perfect. 4.5 centimeters or 45 millimeters. If you have a Bottle-Matic that measures in inches, the first number will be inches, then there'll be a decimal point, then tenths of an inch and hundredths of an inch. You use the exact same mathematics, just in inches instead of millimeters.